Hello and welcome. Leela gets good play on the queen side, then she wins black's central pawns, gives up her queen for a bit more challenge, and eventually mates with bishop and knight. Test 40, also known in some circles as Baby Leela, plays white in a London system, and on move 9 she placed her queen on b3 in an attempt to win a pawn after d takes c5 since the bishop is pinned. Andscacs defends the pawn, castles, a6 and a4, preventing black to expand on the queen side. Rook e8, rook d1, e6 and bishop d6, threatening to take on c5. Leela probably wouldn't mind to see c4, closing down the center. Then after queen a3, she could attack c4 with b3, and get a pawn majority in the center, and also unblock the pawn on e3. Instead, Andscacs keeps the options with the c-pawn and plays rook c8. Queen a3, rook c6, bishop g3, bishop f8, threatening to take here, queen a2, and rook back since knight e5 is coming. Taking the knight is not good, because after d takes, the knight can't go to e4 because white can take, the pawn is pinned. And after knight d7, c4 is strong. If black takes, then the knight becomes dangerous. If d4, then takes, and d4 is weak. For example, bishop f3, queen c7, takes, and knight f3, and white will get the pawn. And if after c4, black doesn't do anything with the d-pawn, but let's say plays queen c7, then a5 is strong, because b5 just loses a pawn, and otherwise white will be able to take on b6 and create some weak pawns. So taking the knight is not good. Andscacs played bishop g7, and after some high-level shuffling for 22 moves, in this position, Andscacs finally released the tension in the center with c4. There followed queen c2 and e5. Now, taking here is an option, but Leela preferred to attack the c4 pawn with b3. Black gains space with e4, which is good, but comes with the downside that now if white takes on c4 and black retakes with the d-pawn, this bishop can't see the king side properly. Knight h2, queen e6 defending c4, rook b1, and Andscacs decides to take on b3. Rook b3, and now since the knight wasn't doing much on f6, black wants to reroute it to f5. Queen b1, knight e7, and just before the knight could get to f5, Leela chops it off. Rook takes and rook c1, preparing c4 and opening the c file. Queen c6, queen a2, f5, trying to open the f file for an attack, c4, queen f6, rook back, and Leela is finally ready to take on d5. But Andscacs decides to take himself. Queen a3 to attack something, rook back, and bishop takes. Not only is the c-file open, but also d4 is a protected passed pawn now. Andscacs continues with his counterattack. Queen b3, trying to play bishop d4, queen d6, knight f1. In case black takes, e3 will be nicely defended. Rook d8, queen b4, queen f6, and bishop back, a very nice move, allowing the rook to get to the 7th, and if black opposes, then after the exchange of rooks, d5 is very good, winning e4. Andscacs continues with f3, rook c7, pawn takes, and knight g3. Of course, Leela doesn't take the pawn on g2, which acts as a nice shield against checks on the g-file. And now that knight attacks e4 one more time. If that pawn falls, Leela will have two connected passers in the center. Bishop back, a5 attacking b6, b5, rook c1, and king h8. At this point, Leela was very ecstatic about her position, giving the score above +5, meaning that she pretty much thinks she's winning this one. Andscacs thought the position is still equal. Queen b3, trying to get to f7 when black would have to exchange queens and give up on counterattacking dreams. so rook e7, but queen b3 is also preparing mate on g8. And that allowed now Leela to take on e4, since after rook takes, rook d7 is strong. The rook cannot be taken because of the mate. And this is the moment when Andscacs started seeing clearly. She played queen f3, trying to give a mate like this. Rook c8, threatening mate in 2, rook e8, and knight g3, defending h3. Bishop f6, queen d5, and black has to exchange queens, and Leela picks up the g2 pawn. Bishop h4, rook takes, and rook c7. Leela goes after the queenside pawns. Rook e7, rook a7, knight b8 defending, rook a8 and rook e8. Leela is so good in tying down the opponent's pieces. Knight e2, bishop g5, knight c1, rook d8, and bishop b7. Now a6 falls. Bishop e7, knight b3, h5, and the bishop takes on a6. Knight c6, trying to get the a5 pawn after rook takes and bishop takes. But there's no need to allow that, because after knight c6, Leela has bishop b7. There followed the rook exchange, knight b4, and bishop b7, paving the way for a promotion. Bishop d8, a6, bishop b6, king f3, knight a2, knight c5, bishop a7, king e2, g5, king d2, b4, king c2, knight c3, and knight d3, getting the b pawn. And after some more moves, Leela allows Andscacs to create a passed pawn to make the game a bit more interesting. Knight e5, king g7, and after king b4, Andscacs decides it's time to sacrifice the horse for 2 pawns. But then he probably realized something important because he changed his mind, so he moved his king instead. King c4, bishop a7, and g5, trying to queen Gary. Bishop b8, bishop a8 for some reason, king g8 and bishop back, g6, king g7, bishop hides again, bishop a7, bishop defends a6, bishop b8, and finally f4. Leela loves to terrorize her opponents with an avalanche of pawns going up the board. Bishop a7, f5, and h3, sneaking up the board, hoping that the bishop is too busy with a corner square and won't notice. And out of the blue, f6. Leela suddenly realized she didn't sacrifice it in this game, and that could ruin her reputation. King d3, king back, and bishop h1, covering some extra miles. Bishop b6, king c4, h2, d5, and the bishop finally gives up. So instead of a7, Leela played d6 because it's more aesthetic. Bishop f6 and a7, giving up the knight. Bishop takes, d7, she wants 2 queens. Bishop f6, and finally we have a new queen on the board. King takes pawn, and after some more moves, Leela allows Andscacs to queen his pawn so that she can take more material. And after that, she promotes to a new knight because she wants to practice mating with bishop and knight. King f6, knight b7, king f5, and queen d8. She gives up the queen to make it a bit more challenging. Mating with the queen is for sissies, not for warriors. So she hopes Andscacs will take. And he does. So here we are, bishop and knight. And Leela eventually won this otherwise very interesting game. Now, she lost a couple of games in the tournament, so she's not first anymore, but she just got a new upgrade in the form of a so-called learning grade drop. So we're expecting her to come back even stronger. Please subscribe, like and share, and check out some other videos also. Thanks for watching and see you soon.